Hello, we're coming to you live out of Northeast Manchester. This is the NRP Election Watch. Candidate Val Wint of the People's National Party is my guest today. Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. And for the purpose of our discussion this day, we are looking at your candidacy in this upcoming election for September 3. Tell us a little bit about Val Wint.
Well, first, let me say, good day to my viewers. Val Wint. Well, Val Wint is a son of the soil, born in Manchester. Went to school in other parishes, Kingston and St. Elizabeth as well. Traveled overseas at a particular point for further education. And I'm here, living among my people in Northeast Manchester, having a good time, enjoying this rigorous climate here. And, making a difference, making every effort to make a difference in the lives of the persons and the people who live in my community.
Why do you think that entering into politics is something that would really benefit you at this time?
Well, the benefit to me would really be to see a change in the lives of the persons who live in my areas. And I mean a positive change. The fact is, for too long, I have been quite upset with the level of representation that we get within these parts. And I've often said that if you really want to effect a change, then you must become a part of that change. So it is to that end why I believe that I will see a benefit in the not too distant future as I undertake the role of becoming the next member of parliament of this constituency.
And what do you bring to the politics of the day? Because you are a businessman and you're training in terms of education.
Well, yes, my training was in the area of law.
Yes.
And, specializing in planning law and environmental law. Mm-hmm. I also had training in community development, but I am a developer by practice. And also I applied the retail trade for a while. Mm-hmm. And that is something that I thoroughly enjoyed. I was a shopkeeper, mm-hmm. So I had the opportunity to serve the people in my community, so here I am, embarking upon the political arena. I see where the people will be benefited from my entrance in this area.
Very well. So tell us about your plans, Mr. Wint, for the constituency, because you have been. You ran, I think, twice in two different areas.
Right.
Which years were these?
Yes. Well, I ran twice in Northeast Manchester, 2011 and 2016. Mm-hmm. I ran for the PNP in both elections. And then again, in 2020, I was in St. Anne. Mm-hmm. The fact is, it's not so much about me running election after election. Is about me giving myself as that voice in the wilderness, speaking on behalf of those who are disenchanted, those who have not received good representation, and those who are seeking to get better every time. Before politics, I was engaged in civic life. I was engaged in community development in many, many areas. I was a chairman of the parish development committees. I served the Jamaica Red Cross, where I was vice president, mm-hmm. for the National Society for a number of years. So when it comes to working with community, that's my life. I served almost all the schools of this area. I served Spalding's, I served Homey at Wood, I served Spalding's Primary,
and in St. Anne?
Neighborhood Basic School. In St. Anne, I served the Cascade Primary School. Mm-hmm. So, I enjoy service. I worked at the Percy Junior Hospital as the first chairman of the board of management.
I recall that.
And while I was there, the hospital saw a lot of improvement. Yes, man. We saw changing out the floors from those red oak floors to porcelain tile. I had over 26,000 square feet of hospital space, floor space tiled with porcelain tiles, as I said before. We changed out the plumbing, we built a central sterilization unit, we repaired the children's ward, and we took on the project of building a new accident and emergency department. You know, to get those projects done, there was quite a bit of community involvement, quite a bit of fundraising activity. I remember we trying to raise 425 million to build a new accident and emergency department. A department which was well needed. That improvements were well needed because Percy Junior Hospital, though a type C hospital, was seeing over 50,000 patients every single year. And to do a comparison, I will tell you that Mandeville Regional Hospital in that same particular year saw 60,000 patients. You see, Percy Junior serves 4 parishes: Manchester, Clarendon, St. Anne and Trelawney. So, you know, that's a project that I was quite proud of. And I continue to work with the hospital and other, you know, agencies of government in the particular area.
So basically you're saying that your experience gained over time would have propelled you to continue in this vein.
Representational politics really is just a continuation of the work that I've started, really. And this is just formalizing the, you know, proper use of government funds, using that critical resource we have there to the benefit of the wider society. You know, it's not very easy for, you know, MPs who are not trained, who are not accustomed to community life, to recognize the need to mobilize very small amount of money to benefit a wide cross-section of persons within a community. So I believe that now I'm an expert at this, and I'm looking forward to showing the people how we can transform Northeast Manchester.
And talk about transformation. What is it that you're bringing?
Well, Northeast Manchester needs so many things. Currently, the physical infrastructure is at its worst. The roads are replete with potholes. You know, the water supply is really very, very poor, despite the fact that we have so many, you know, water sources here. We have the Moravia plant, we have the Hector's River, and we have several springs across Northeast Manchester. You know, so if we were to really look at harvesting, putting together or finding suitable storage for the water that exists, so we can treat and then, you know, have the water circulated, distributed right across the constituency, then we would see a much improved water system. As it relates to the roads itself, as I mentioned before, boy, we have seen these roads in this condition for the longest while. And all we keep hearing about is that the government has a new program. You hear about the Spark program, you hear about the REACH program. At this particular point in time, all you ever hear is that a new program will start tomorrow. Yet nothing done. You know, a gentleman gave me a joke quite recently. He said that it seems as if Andrew Holness is dropping a hoop of jacket across the country. That's what you mean by that. Him say, well, everywhere you go, you get a baby. He said, what do you mean? Each time that you hit a pothole, you get a baby. And it's Andrew Holness who giving you those babies. I had to laugh. But in fact, that is so true. I think the government ought to be held liable for damages sustained on the roads,
and for the purpose
as a result of their own negligence.
And for the purpose of our discussion, babies here, we're talking about those bubbles that you would get on your tires.
Of course. That's the babies that I'm talking about.
Yes.
You know, so, you know, many persons, you know, actually get injured from these collisions, so to speak, with the potholes. And it's as if government doesn't care. They take no liability for it. We need to change the legislation where government becomes liable for damages sustained on these roads. Government ought to really take charge.
Is this something that you're pushing that under a PNP government that should happen?
Well, I am sure the PNP government will be looking quite seriously at this, because we must be able to hold our officers of government responsible for the maintenance of our infrastructure. Hold them responsible when negligence is clear. Government ought not to get away with just doing as they please or not doing as they should. Time come for government to hold on to governance in a proper way.
All right, we're talking to Mr. Val Wint, the candidate for the People's National Party for Northeast Manchester, and this is our election watch on NRP Radio and NRP Media. Of course, Mr. Wint is outlining his plans for the constituency. He touched on the water, and he also touched on the roads. What are the other things that the constituents should look to in terms of supporting you going forward into this election?
I think education is of utmost importance, and I believe that we need to take a serious approach as to how we deal with early childhood education. I believe it's the government's responsibility to start monitoring our children from as early as 2 years old, ensuring that properly trained teachers enter those kindergarten institutions and mold our children in the way they ought to be molded. If we set them right, they will continue on the right path.
So what can they expect of you in the area of education? What is your focus?
All right. I mentioned early childhood education.
Yes.
I would love to turn some of these basic schools into excellent basic schools. I would also look at properly utilizing some of these old post office spaces that we have across the country. We have quite a few of them that are not operating now. I believe these post office spaces could be converted into resource centers where children can go and use the internet and use computer and interface with other children, and who knows, a place to have homework done, etc. I think that could enhance the absorption of knowledge with children. I also believe that at the tertiary level, the PNP's plan of having one child per household attend university, an excellent plan, is something that you will see right across Northeast Manchester. Can you imagine when you look to the breadth of Northeast Manchester, you see every house you see there's a child who qualifies for university, who is now attending university because the parents don't have to bear the burden of paying for the school fees.
Yes.
It's something that I'm looking forward to as it relates to food security in our agricultural community. And I don't think enough is being done to assist our farmers. Farmers suffer too much. And agriculture, it's a non-elastic. Most of the cultivation is non-elastic. So the shelf life is very low. We really need to get to a point where we fully understand the importance of providing on-time market for our farmers, so the produce can go out as soon as they reap it. The farming is being affected by the competition of imports, and as the PNP government has in its plan, in its manifesto, we'll be reducing imports significantly, and where there is a shortage of a particular item, the preference will be given to farmers to take that in.
And this area is a farming community.
Of course. And
Irish potato,
sweet potato, yam. The Irish potato not as big as it used to be. The national consumption at one time was approximately 54,000 tons per annum. We're way below 17,000 tons now. So we're not producing enough Irish potatoes, so we import quite a bit of Irish potato. I think climate change has affected us in that area because we're not getting the yield from the field that we're accustomed to. But as it relates to yam, we have the capacity to plant far more yam. And the market for yam is pretty good. What we want to create is a stable price, so farmers, can find a more predictable market. So when you plant, you know what to expect. You
Yes.
can make proper projections. Farmers suffer a lot in these areas too because of drought. So we'd want to have a good irrigation system in the area. We would also want to get assistance from the agricultural ministry. And when I become member of parliament, I will ensure that this happens, where we get assistance to provide the necessary machinery and other tools necessary to make farming much easier. You know, many of our farmers, you know, who are going out there, it's a back situation.
Yes.
You know, where you have to go out there with your hoe, your picker, and your machete.
So you want to mechanize agriculture?
We want to
far
put
more
far
than
more
it is now.
mechanization in agriculture. If we are to increase the yield, make it more sustainable, then we need to find best practices so the farmers can really, you know, produce more in a more efficient way.
So moving out there, you have a certain number of pillars of focus that you're putting your attention on. You spoke to water, you spoke to education, you spoke to the roadway, and you spoke to development and agriculture. Are there any other areas that
Well,
you're focusing
an
on?
area that I consider to be pet peeve is that of rural electrification. There are many communities that are not getting good electricity, if you know what I mean. And where we get electricity, many of those areas, even though we take electricity from the Jamaica Public Service, the roads are dark like a dungeon. You know? And you have to ask yourself, if you can supply electricity to these people for miles, yet you walk in darkness for miles, I'm saying we now need to change that policy. And I'm going to advocate that this policy is changed. That wherever light goes, street light goes. You know, I see no reason for JPS to be waiting on the council to determine where a light goes. You know, there should be a policy that a light is put, say, every 100 meters or etc. But the roads are extremely dangerous, especially at nights, because, you know, many children come from school very late. So, especially with women, they are at great risk walking on these dark roads in the night.
Indeed.
So the policy, and it should be a national policy, wherever electricity goes, street light goes. It should be a mandate of the Jamaica Public Service or any other provider to provide street lights. Street light must follow, you know, the electricity wherever it goes.
And this is going to be an area of focus for you.
An area of focus for me.
Wonderful.
As it relates to the young people, we have so many unattached youths in our communities. As a matter of fact, I would consider these youth at risk. Persons are now complaining that you can't get a good tradesman to work for you. You can't get a good farm help because nobody wants to work anymore. Truth be told, many of these youngsters have not gone through an apprenticeship system. We need the return of the trade training centers where youngsters can learn the craft, you know, very well. And whether it's woodwork you're going to be doing, welding you're going to, or mechanic. Who knows? We want persons who are trained in agriculture. Because you see, for agriculture to be viable, we have to make it far more sexy. So we have to mechanize the plantation. We have to change the way we do things. We have to move away sometimes from open field farming and move to greenhouse technology. And another time we have to look at hydroponics. So various ways of cultivating in a far more efficient and friendly way will encourage more young persons to return to the whole matter of farming.
But how do you plan to engage the youth to get them? Because as we well know, they are on the street corners, they are in the townships, they are not involved in any productive way.
Right.
What kind of engagement will you have in place to ensure that they listen to you and they move from that into the production line?
Right. Yes. The best way to capture a young mind is right out of high school, you bring them right into trade training. After trade training, you would have completed the apprenticeship system really, and then they move into production. You know, whether they move to work with industry or start their own small business. Now, for those who have not been fortunate enough to be streamlined as such. We have to really pull them together, have to seek dialogue with them, and get them engaged through various means in the whole matter of apprenticeship. We need to bring them into trade training centers and teach them various skills.
So you're going to go out into the community and call them to sessions, sit them down,
Of
have
course,
discussions with them.
Of course. Meet with them, find out what is it that you would like to do, and find means of facilitating them. Many of them, we may have to offer opportunities of travel, because many times when they go overseas, they get engaged in, further training. And many of them, when they develop themselves, they can come back home to Jamaica and be of greater value to the Jamaican society. So we have a big plan for our youngsters. We will not just sit back and allow our youngsters to waste away. No, time has come for us to prevent that from happening. We don't want our children to just wither away. So we have to capture them now, bring them to the fold, and ensure that they get the necessary assistance that they need. And as we approach the election period here, we have an election in a couple of days. I am not surprised that my opponent is out there and making quite a bit of promises all over. I hear many say that she's offering to give visas to many persons, really. I don't know how she's going to be doing that, really, because the only person I know who can give visa is an embassy that is operating. Nevertheless, a promise is often said to be a comfort to a fool. And, we hear of so many other little things that she's trying to do out there. I can understand the panic and the whole anxiety to see if you can become the choice of the people. But I don't have to wonder or ponder as to what the people think of me. And the man who has been here for them over the period, when it comes to innovation, helping them to facilitate their parking situation in Christiana, I am the one who afforded them the opportunity of doing that. When Christiana got to a point where our farmers couldn't find anywhere to sell their animals, I provided an animal market for them. They're now selling from that. As it relates to our small business people who normally vend on the street, I have made a personal decision to help many of them. So I have many of them, vending in a place that I provide for them. I've been the action man. I've been on the ground. I have a track record of performance here. Mark you, my opponent has just arrived and is yet to show what she can do. So, I have no fear. We are still looking. But I just want to say to the general public that at this moment, she's still on the mark and I'm way ahead. So let the public decide.
And as you decide, for any development that you do, somebody has to have a blueprint.
Well,
who has it?
Everybody knows that Val Wint has the blueprint.
Right. Well, Mr. Winter, you have your plans outlined, and you have been on the campaign trail before the campaign was even launched. Out there ensuring that you are engaging with the constituents of Northeast Manchester. They look at them and tell them why is it that they should support you as the person.
Right.
The
Well, you heard of my plans, and certainly I never said everything, because housing is another area that we have to give prime focus on. Youth empowerment is another thing we have to give focus on. We do that. Many youngsters would have loved to start a small business but don't have access to loans because they don't have any collateral. We are going to be moving where these youngsters can get as much as $1 million to borrow and get a moratorium on payment, meaning you won't start paying back this loan until 3 months into the loan. So if you started raising chicken, for instance, you would have covered 2 crops of chicken before you actually start paying back your loan. There are so many other offers that we have to give to the Jamaican public and to the people in Northeast Manchester. But now is the time for you to make a decision. And the decision has to be that you want someone who cares for you, someone who has been with you, somebody who understands community development, somebody who understands planning, somebody who looks out for you, somebody who really, really cares about your lives and the lives of your children. The time has come to move away from the Jamaica Labour Party government in Northeast Manchester. And I'm here as your able representative, looking forward to serving you. serving you well.
That was Mr. Valentin Wint, the caretaker for Northeast Manchester, looking forward to Election Day on September 3, when, with great hope, he expects to be the person moving ahead with the numbers and to be named as the next Member of Parliament for this era. Mr. Wint is no stranger to the era, and therefore he has significant amount of assets to his advantage because he has been out there working with the people all this time. Two party, two candidates, who will it be? Is it going to be Valentin Wint, or is it going to be Ambassador or Marks? The decision is yours. This has been another of our NRP Election Watch. Have a wonderful day.